is up, Cup Check audience? Welcome back to another episode here on the Fantasy Channel. I'm here with fantasy guru Kyle Moore. Kyle Moore's first time on the show. I'm gonna let Kyle tell you all a little bit about himself.
I'm very old. I've been doing this since you had to get a baseball weekly and do the stats by hand. So, I've been doing this a long time. Took a lot of people's money. I'm diamond level in Yahoo Fantasy for football and baseball, and just have a good time doing it.
Yes, sir. And Kyle's a guy who I go to get fantasy advice from sometimes, just kind of like bounce off trade ideas, talk about what's going on. We're going to try and get Kyle into our league one of these days. It's tough. We got a 10-team keeper league. I think it would take a little bit of an expansion because we got 10 active members, but something to look out for down the road. So Kyle, what kind of
need to go to 12?
Yeah, I think we do. But getting into today's episode, Kyle, what kind of episode idea did you bring for us today?
Well, when you hit the second half, it's always nice to look at where you want to go for the rest of the season. Whether you're in first or whether you're in fifth or sixth, right? You're always trying to find guys that are going to improve your team down the backstretch. So we came up with two guys that'll help you down the backstretch, and maybe one that might fade.
Yeah, and this is the time of the season where you got to look at who you want on your roster heading towards the end, especially if you're a winning team. Definitely got to look at who you can kind of poach away from some other teams to give you that extra boost to win the league. So, Kyle, do you want to give us your first love for the second half?
Sure. Most of the time when people do these, they give you some guy who's been hot for a couple weeks, and that always drives me crazy because it's someone you're not going to keep on your roster. So I'm going to give you a big name, and I'm going to give you somebody who's smaller that you may not know about. But my first one is Giancarlo Stanton, and everybody knows that Aaron Judge has just crushed it. He's having an MVP season, and everybody around him has been hitting well because of it. But what you might not know is that Giancarlo Stanton, 5 of the last 6 seasons, his slugging percentage in the second half improves. And so this is a guy who takes advantage of the heat. Ball speeds go faster, the ball leaves the park more. And I have a feeling that I'm not saying he's going to surpass Judge's numbers in the second half, but, a lot like, Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, it's nice to have that guy who's having the hot season in front of you and ride those coattails. So, if you can go out and get him in a trade for, equal value as of right now, I think you'll come out ahead at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I love that take. I currently have Stanton on my team as well. I've been pretty pleased. The average is not as high as you would probably want to see it, but that's just what you're going to get with Stanton. You're going to get a lot of powers, a lot of home runs, and Yankees are just a very fun team to be on right now. So kind of having that like energy in the second half is definitely going to help just all the players pretty much. But for my first breakout, or not really a breakout in the second half, but just guy I love for the second half, I actually have Louise Robert. This is a guy who's really had like a quiet, great start to a season. I mean, hitting 301, 12 homers, 11 stolen bases, and hitting 337 in the last 30 games. And Robert's a guy like you just know that the talent is limitless with him, and we've yet to see his best. We've really yet to see his best ball, and I think he's a guy who can be up there leading in stolen bases and also be up there leading in homers. And having the 300 average is just a great sign of step forward for a young hitter.
Yeah, and he's getting healthy, and it shows. He's improved as the season's gone on. So, no, he's definitely somebody that should have a good second half.
Yeah, and I would not be shocked at all if we see him get to 30-20, but, I mean, his upside is even beyond that. 12 homers will probably limit him from getting too much higher than that, but definitely a guy, especially in Dynasty, you love to have moving forward. So who do you have for your second one?
All right, so my second one, I'm going to give you a guy that maybe you don't know about, but he's literally the 101st ranked player on Yahoo right now. And I always look at that. I always look at where I always check my players to see where they're ranking, not only individually by position, so that I know, okay, this person I need to improve on, this one I don't, for my position ability. This is a guy who qualifies at 3 spots. He qualifies at second base, shortstop, and outfield. But he's currently the second baseman for the San Francisco Giants. Man, that tells you how old I am. Thyroid Estrada is the guy I'm talking about. And this is a a 26-year-old shortstop prospect from the Yankees that never really got a chance because of how, competitive that middle infield was. He goes to San Francisco. They move him to second base. He's one of those guys who, makes the exceptional play and then boots the next one, right? He's kind of Colton Wongish at second, but he's finally getting a chance to actually play for a full season, and he's put up some good numbers that nobody's really noticed. So, at the break, he's got 46 runs scored, 9 home runs, 36 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, and he's hitting 259. So, if I didn't tell you who his name was and I told you those numbers, you'd be thinking somebody much, much more high profile than Thyroid Estrada. So he may be on your waiver wire still and somebody that you could nab, especially if you want multi-position eligibility.
Yeah, I love that take. That was a guy who I wasn't even on my radar. And after this episode, I'm going to have to go check out where he is in my league. Because, especially with like the lesser minds in your fantasy league, they really carry the weight of the name. And that's a guy who necessarily doesn't have like the biggest name. So probably an easy guy to like make a trade for the Stanton and then have him like throw in an Estrada on top of it and really just make out well in the deal.
And those guys who, they've been waiting their whole lives to get to the majors and they finally get the opportunity to make the best of it. Ryan Ludwig kind of comes to mind, right? As a guy that Rule 5 draftee that, he hits in his age 27 season, right? So, it's one of those things where when those guys get the opportunity, man, they're going to play real hard.
Yeah, taking me back, Ryan Ludwig. That was a name I did not expect to hear today, but that's a pretty good comp. So moving on, who is your bust or like sell high candidate for the second half?
All right. So again, I always look at second half success, especially for the guys who've done really well in the first half. And it was interesting because Paul Goldschmidt's had such a great start to the season, right? He looks like old Goldschmidt. And so I went and I looked, and his last 2 seasons, he's improved in the second half. But he started so bad both of those seasons that I thought, well, I wonder what the rest of it looks like when he actually was hitting 30-30 and crushing bombs the way he is this year. In the previous 7 seasons, he has always had a lower slug in the second half than he has in the first. And I'm not saying he's going to finish poorly. I'm just saying that if you expect the second half that you saw in the first half, you're going to be disappointed, I think. He seems to be one of those guys who wears down over the course of the summer and the heat. And I get that. That's not a crazy thing. Barry Bonds couldn't hit a baseball in April and then was the best player in the game. So they all kind of have these little peccadillos, and it's good to pay attention to which ones do. He's my fade. And I don't think he's going to have like a bad second half. But like Freddie Freeman's been the number 1 player in the league. You may not have realized that for the last 30 days. He's number 1, the number 1 player overall in Yahoo for the past month. So if you could go out and trade, like you might be able to swap Goldschmidt for Freeman and pick up a closer too with that, right? So I'm just saying that's something I would consider doing.
Yeah, and I was actually just about to ask if you would trade Goldschmidt for Freeman or Olsen moving forward. I think Olsen's a little bit underneath their caliber at the current moment, but also a guy who has that potential to have a pretty good second half.
Definitely. Yeah, that's exactly the way about it.
Yeah, and I'm realizing I went a little off script. I skipped my second breakout player. So I have Chris Bryant. I think we might not see eye to eye on this one, but here's what I got on Bryant so far. So Bryant's missed the majority of the first half with back injuries, and there's nothing worse than a sore back just waking up, I would argue. And he's been good but not great so far in his time back. 126 ABs, hitting 302 with 4 homers, and probably still getting used to that like Coors Field environment. And also something to note, Bryant just had a kid, so look for that like dad strength to really kick into the second half. So just seeing that he might have the dad strength and be playing at Coors all the time, I want all of Chris Bryant in the second half.
He's extremely talented. In fact, I think he's more talented than what he puts out on the field, which has always been kind of my gripe with him, is that he showed up, crushed it, and then seems like he's kind of coasted ever since. Even the signing in Colorado, right? He could have gone someplace competitive, but that doesn't seem to be his MO. He just is kind of a coaster. So, he has the talent to absolutely destroy in the second half. You're correct. I'm always concerned when I look at that and think, will he?
Yeah, And, I was kind of shocked at that signing as well. I mean, Bryant has won a World Series over there with the Cubs. So I guess he might just have been in that mindset of I've done it all. I've won the MVP, won a World Series. Time to go to whoever's going to pay me. And that segues right into my bust for the second half. Former OG Cub as well. This is a guy I'm fading right now. Kyle Schwerber. You gotta love the first half that Schwerb has put up. With all these home runs, but the man is hitting 194 in the last 30 days. So he is really boomer bust on your team. And that's a player for me that I just cannot stand, a guy who goes 0 for 4 pretty much every day and then just occasionally gives you that home run. To be fair, Schwarber's been given that home run more occasionally than not. But at the same time, I need to see a better average from him, or I'd be very comfortable like selling him for like a Randy Arozarena or kind of a lesser profile guy who's going to give you average, an okay amount of home runs and also some speed in there as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think that he's had a great first half when you look at the raw power numbers. But I think I think everybody on that team is trying to compensate for the loss of Bryce Harper. And
Yeah.
it's only kind of worn on them as it's gone along with him being missing. When he comes back, maybe they finish strong at the end of the year, but yeah, I don't want to hold him for the next month or so and see where that goes.
Yeah. Another thing to note on him, currently has a 30.7 K rate. So very, very up there. He's either striking out or hitting a home run right now. So yeah, that's gonna do it for our two buys and one fade for the second half of the season. Big thank you to Kyle Moore for hopping on and sharing his wisdom with us today. So signing off.